there's three things I just want to point out here. There are myths that exist out there that I've heard quite a few times, and we're going to destroy them today. So join me for a few minutes and let's talk about them one at a time. So first of all, this first myth, some people out there who have high incomes, if they have their old age security being fully clawed back every year, it drives them crazy because they think that somehow this is uh, resulting in a more punitive tax result overall for them. They say, um, I've got an extra, call it $8,000 or $9,000 that is in my income, which then raises all my other sources of income up so that they're then exposed to higher marginal tax brackets than if I didn't have the OAS to begin with. So even if you claw it all away, I'm still worse off. Let's actually look at this. What I've done, I hopped into our tax software, and this is a situation where someone is completely 100% clawed back. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go in and eliminate the old age security. And I want to point out first, maybe I'll pause this for a second. If you zero in on the kind of bottom part, total tax payable, line 43500, currently it says 40,409. And of that, 8,335 of it is the clawback or the social benefits repayment. So if you, as a starting point, take that out, you'd have $32,054 of tax payable on all of your other sources of income. And also just look at the very bottom on the the left side column here is what we're looking at for 2023. Just ignore 2022. So 9,695 is the bottom line amount owed. So I'm going to now play this forward. You can see here I've hopped into the OAS slip. I am zeroing it out. It's as though they never had it to begin with. And now we're going to go back to that kind of summary of the tax return. And lo and behold, you're paying the same amount of tax on all the other stuff. Okay, 32,054. It's the exact same number once you account for stripping out the old age security. So what this means is that it is not more expensive overall to have your old age security. It's a complete nothing burger. If it's fully clawed back, it's eliminated and it's not making anything else worse. So just finally, like, I never want to hear that argument again. Okay, myth number two. Uh, the old age security clawback ceiling is 148,451. By the ceiling, I mean the point at which you have enough income to lose all of your old age security. So I think most people are quite commonly familiar with the starting point. So $90,997 is the starting point to start losing your old age security. And then this is even on the Government of Canada website. It says you lose all of it at 148,451. For those who are 75 or over, they lose all of it at 154,196. That's because people who are over 75 get a larger payment amount, and because you lose 15 cents of your old age security for every dollar your income exceeds that minimum income recovery threshold. If you have more old age security to begin with, it takes longer to lose all of it because it's just 15 cents per dollar. Okay, so I'm going to bust this myth now. So what I've done here is I've created this Excel spreadsheet to help to identify some opportunities, I guess you could say. So first of all, I'll just kind of walk you through what we're looking at here. So you have got two sections. The first section is for those who are between the ages of 65 and 74. The bottom section is for those who are over 75 because they get the extra 10% payment. We show each row essentially shows you the math around how much someone would receive from old age security depending on their start date. So whether they started at age 65 or 66 or, all the way up to 70. And then we show, based off of that later starting date, you get compensated for that. So if you wait all the way to age 70, you get 36% more than when you would have if you had started at 65. So it's 0.6% per month. Then you get the point where you start to lose your old age security if your net income exceeds a certain point. I call that the clawback floor. And for this year, it's been set at 90,997. So what the government's website is really showing you is this number, 148,451 for those who start at 65, and 154,196 for those who start at age 65. But what about all these other potential starting dates, right? Like you're forgetting about the fact that people can defer here. So only publishing the one number based off the one starting age, um, I think it's a flawed way that they're presenting this information. What's more realistic is to say that while the clawback floor is consistent for all starting ages, the clawback ceiling, it's a range of potential outcomes that's really based off the level of income that you receive from old age security. So the more you have, the longer it takes for it to be fully eroded, just because it's a formulaic thing. 15 cents per dollar for every dollar over 90,997. So really it's more like 169 and 176 instead of 148 and 154. Okay? So that's really important just to understand. Now, this is where it gets really interesting because those numbers even are for someone who is not exposed to OAS clawback. But look what happens for higher income retirees. Let's say someone had $100,000, which would put them into the clawback range. Okay, that's it because it's over 90,997. So if they had $100,000 of retirement income, they would get 1,350 of their old age security clawed back. Okay? And if you think about it, 1,350 is a higher percentage of 8618 than it is of 11,721. So for those who are deferring, they end up keeping a higher percentage of their OAS compared to someone who started at 65. And that's why we see, I call this the real deferral enhancement. Okay, it's not actually 36% if you have an expected retirement income of typically around 100,000. It's more like 42.7. Okay? Now you're into the same level of deferral enhancement as Canada Pension Plan. And people always like to talk about, well, you get paid more for waiting with CPP than OAS, so defer CPP, take OAS earlier. Um, there's merit to that as well. But all of a sudden, OAS is now at the same level as that. And look what happens when we keep dealing with higher and higher levels of retirement income. Now, at 125,000, your deferral enhancement is not 36%, it's 88% if you're, 65 to 74. That's so powerful. It really becomes very obvious that for high income retirees, deferral is powerful, very powerful. And this just keeps kind of getting more and more extreme the higher the income levels get. So at 145,000, it's almost absurd, right? Now, granted, you're still keeping only a small amount of it, even if you were to start at 70, but you're keeping a lot more than if you started at 65. And if you ever got to the point where you're at, like, say 150, guess what? If you start at 65, you're keeping zero. Whereas if you defer to 70, you're still putting something in your pocket, right? So anyways, I think this OAS strategizing for high income people is fascinating. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, um, but if you work with high income, high net worth clientele, like frankly, you need to know this. Like you need to know this. You need to know how to properly give them the correct advice. And hopefully, I've been able to give some new insight that you can then take forward into your client meetings. Okay, so one last myth. This one's pretty common too, the $2,000 pension um, credit. So everyone likes to say, bring $2,000 of pension income in because it's tax free, right? Is it though? Let's check. So what I've done here is I've outlined for each province what the actual value on a dollar basis is for that $2,000 pension credit. Because the federal credit is consistent, but each province has their own way of doing things. Some are more generous than others. You can kind of see the bottom part of that top section is kind of the summary here. So you can kind of see the dollar amount of what the combined federal and provincial pension credit is. And then we can start analyzing this and saying, okay, well, if someone's at a low level of income and they're paying the lowest rate of tax in their province, or next to the lowest rate of tax, sure, you're not paying much tax on that $2,000 of pension income. So like for the people who between 65 and 70 or making sure that they riff out about 2,000 bucks a year, um, this is really what we're talking about today, right now, is to kind of address that strategy. So, and I'm not saying it's a bad strategy. I'm just saying be careful what you communicate, because if you're saying it's tax free, you're probably telling a mistruth. Um, so at the low, if you only had $25,000 of income and then you brought another two of pension income on top, so now you're at 27. Um, you know, at that point, even at that low level of income, in most provinces, you're still remitting some tax. It's not really tax free. It's very tax efficient. I still think it's probably a good idea to do this. But to say it's tax free in most provinces is just not true. And then you walk that forward, say, well, what if they had $60,000 of income or 120, and you kind of move your way up the marginal tax brackets all the way up to being at the top marginal. You can see at top marginal rates, you're still paying mid 30 percentages on that $2,000. So again, it's not 48 to 54, like normal top marginal rates in the provinces on regular income, but it certainly is not tax free either. So I never want to hear anyone say again that it's tax free to bring this $2,000 of income forward, um, because in most cases it is not. So busted another myth. Okay, guys, that brings me to the end. Thank you so much for watching.